Hi everybody, welcome back. I've got a great one for you today. I went to Punta Cana, Dominican Republic with a family a few years ago, and here's the story. I hope you get some tips to enjoy your trip. So, we flew into Punta Cana from Charlotte, North Carolina after connection from Savannah, Georgia, and wouldn't you know it, at the airport, the hotel transport did not show. No sweat, I speak some rudimentary Spanish, pretty bad grammar, but nonetheless, I was able to negotiate transport for us to the hotel for $20 round trip. It was great. The cabbie even showed up at the end of the vacation to pick us up. Awesome. So we went to the Hotel Melia Caribe Tropical, which is a Spanish chain, and as one might expect from a high-end European hotel, it was great. They had all kinds of super sweet stuff, starting when you came in the lobby and they greeted you with a cool, refreshing drink after you drive through the little bit of countryside from Punta Cana Airport to the hotel. It was right on the beach, had acres and acres and acres of property, all kinds of amenities, etc. So, first thing to think about is, do you want to do the all-inclusive option or not? I'm going to suggest that you do the all-inclusive option because that just gives you better access for the reservation process for the various and sundry restaurants they have, also easier access to pool, cabana, etc. So they had a little train. It really looked like something out of a cartoon. Really, it was shaped like a train, but it was a tram, and that would take you and your luggage to the room. Now, you could opt to take your luggage on the train yourself, or you could have them bring it by later. Here's another lesson. Take it yourself. My son Sam and I did that, and we changed clothes straight away in the room, and we're out to the beach right away. My wife and daughters asked for the luggage to be brought by the bellman, and it turned up a few hours later. Okay, so lesson learned there. So there are all kinds of amenities at this resort, all kinds of super fun stuff to do. They have a zip line, an aerial course. They have a great pool, lovely cabanas there, typical of this type of Caribbean resort. They have a swim-up bar in the pool. They also had snorkeling and sailing, and I was delighted that I was able to sail up and down the coast with one of my daughters and with my son Sam. And then we also did some snorkeling, saw all kinds of beautiful colored fish. Beautiful area, lovely indeed. The zip line course. Well, my son Sam and I met the two guys that ran it, Jorge and Ramon. Nice guys. We talked for a while, and Sam went up, did the zip line course and the aerial obstacle course, etc. My girls wanted to do it, but they told me that they couldn't do it because they had brought open-toed shoes and required closed-toed shoes for the zip line. Well, I told them, don't worry, let me go speak to my friends Jorge and Ramon. Well, I went and spoke with the gentlemen, and they were willing to relent, and so the girls got to ride the course. But there's a lesson here. Make sure that you wear the make sure that you bring some closed-toed shoes. Wear the open-toed shoes for dinner. But the other bigger lesson, I think, is just how you treat people. And I saw a lot of people exhibit some poor behavior at this resort and others in the past. But I'd go out of my way to try to meet the staff, learn their names, and speak to them at least in my poor Spanish, same as I do with my poor French when I'm traveling. And people in another country certainly appreciate it if you make the effort to speak their language. And lo and behold, it paid off, and the girls got to do the activity that they wanted. Let me speak a little bit about dinner. Man alive, it was great. They had all types of different restaurants. They had Thai, French, Italian, and of course Spanish. We ate at all of those. There are probably some others that I've neglected to mention. But again, it's important to have that magic bracelet of the all-inclusive status because you are preferred for your reservations. Now, there's a danger at an all-inclusive resort that people can encounter. They might eat or drink too much. So, as I had probably my fourth lobster tail one night and had already eaten escargot, I thought back to the famous quote by the author Oscar Wilde, who said that when faced with temptation, his approach was to yield early. Well, I suppose I followed in his suit because I certainly overate. Now, a couple other great amenities that this hotel has is that you can go to church there on Sunday. They conduct a mass at the hotel, and it's in both English and Spanish. It was curious that it was conducted by a French-Canadian priest who actually would do the Mass in French, and then it was subsequently translated into Spanish, and to English. Now, my French is a bit better than my Spanish, so I enjoyed conversing with the man and practicing the other language. So I've touched on all the really great, easy things that are offered at the resort. The other thing, I suppose, that you can book if you're so mindful is the obligatory pirate-style cruise. I've got some pictures on Instagram and Facebook that show the rudimentary-style Spanish galleon, and really I think they call these things a booze cruise. I didn't really participate, so I can't speak too much to it. But a couple of things that we did do that were not really immediately part of the resort and that I would recommend that you avail yourselves of if traveling down to the Emilia Caribe. So one was to go parasailing. It was fabulous. My children, one of them had a birthday. I'm looking back at my cheat sheet notes to make sure I didn't forget anything, sorry. But one of my children had a birthday and wanted to go on the parasail. So my two daughters, we booked them on the parasail. I was able to negotiate a very good price, and I'm going to recommend that as another tip. When you're working with some of the vendors there, even those that are headquartered at the hotel, make sure that you ask if there's a discount or a better price, or if you can pay cash and it's cheaper. Now, speaking of paying cash, American dollars are preferred in the Dominican Republic, so you don't need to go change money. The Dominican peso to the dollar, the exchange rate is 1 Dominican peso is about 1.5 to 2 cents, depending on current circumstances. So you're better off utilizing American dollars, and the vendors certainly would prefer American dollars. It behooves them. So anyway, make sure that you negotiate. The children had a great time on the parasailing event, but concurrent to them doing that, I had been walking down the beach, as is my habit, and swimming the beach and then walking back. And one day, I saw the most fascinating sight. I saw this thing called the flyboat, not flying boat, but flyboat. And it was a contraption created by a long dinghy, as one might encounter with a sailing ship, pleasure craft, with a airboat motor mounted on the back, and then on top of that was hang glider wings. So the propeller for the airboat motor didn't quite fit right, obviously, and someone had sawn off the outer edges. So typically you'll see the propeller will have it'll come out and have a rounded edge at the end. Well, these were cut off flat, and it really was not in square. So there was a shimmy when the prop turned. I imagined that that would make the craft a bit unstable. The pilot would sit in the front, and then directly behind him in front of the motor would sit the single passenger. And the pilot would work throttles with his bare feet. And that would be I guess he'd work the throttle for the gas, and then there's also a type of choke that he could work. Then he would hold the wings with his hands and could adjust them different ways. All this was explained to me with me half understanding, as the gentleman only spoke Spanish and I predominantly speak English, and not that well at that after all. But we began to negotiate, and I was able to get him down to $75 for a half-hour flight. And hey, what can I say? I went. And if I'm going to put my life at risk, I want a bargain. So, lo and behold, his helper, he and I pushed the craft from the shallows out into a little bit deeper water, and we climbed aboard, and the guy began to pull a cord to start it, just like you do on a lawnmower engine. It was really, I don't know, I thought I was going from the sublime to the ridiculous, but it was funny. He would pull this cord. He probably pulled it about 8 or 10 times, and I was like, man, there's no way this is going to work, and I was losing confidence in the whole enterprise. When he reached over to a bulb like you'd pump up if any of you guys have an outboard boat and maybe an old Boston Whaler or something, and you know how you pump the bulb. So he pumped it, got it good and full of gas, and pulled that cord about 3 more times, and boom, the ignition caught and the prop began to spin, and we hopped on and we started puttering across the waves, and I was watching him with his right bare foot work the throttle, left foot work the choke, and he got the thing to take off, and it came up maybe about 10 feet off the waves, and then it bounced back down, hit the waves again on the second try. He got it up, and we climbed to an altitude of about 100 feet or so. It was exhilarating. Met all expectations, in fact exceeded them. We flew out over the reef where There had been built a holding tank for sharks and other fish for the tourists to look at. We could see it clearly. We went up and down the coast, saw the fishermen plying their trade, people swimming in the sea, everyone waving at us. And then he turned inland, and as he passed over the line of palm trees along the beach, which I've got featured in the photographs attendant to this presentation on Instagram and Facebook, we went further, and then you could see where the scrub started. And it was kind of scrubby, short pine trees and lots of undergrowth, traversed by a 2-lane road that, well, I guess it was really a 1-lane track, but it looked like 2 initially till we got down closer, as it had grass growing down the center, and you could see the 2 worn paths on it. It was kind of like, for me, reminiscent of a road in the rural South. So I liked it rather much, and you could see where the road came along behind the scrub and the palm trees and past a large lake, and then turned up to the beach. And in that area there were lots of fishing boats, and I presume that the local fishermen traversed that road to put in their boats or bring their catch to and from. Anyway, we flew around a bit longer, and then we came down. I was really getting a bit nervous about how the landing would work, but he cut the motor and then just glided in using the hang glider wings, and he stuck it. Nice, smooth landing. It was fabulous. I got out of the boat, turned to him and his helper who came up to get us, pushed the boat to shore. I turned and looked at them, and I said, "Muy loco." And they both smiled and laughed, and I went away quite satisfied. For me, that was the highlight of the trip. I hope this has given you some good ideas. I hope you'll go down to Punta Cana in Dominican Republic and try out the fly boat. Now, I've got the photographs of the boat and myself standing by it to prove that I did it, but maybe this will give you some extra proof. Here was the certificate that I received. So yes, I did it and I survived. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you have more and more great journeys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.